What's going on with this Make America Healthy Again, especially for kids?
We have metabolic dysfunction happening at large in our country. And I think, yes, part of that is our lifestyle, but there's also a big part of that is like the food that we're eating.
What I love about this, you've committed your life to this idea of health, wellness.
We feel like this industry is one that is predicated on people's failure. You have to come back for the special shots, or stay on them for life. You have to come and buy our prepackaged food. Like you have to come and do something in order to see sustainable results. And we feel like we've been led to believe that sustainable results and significant results are mutually exclusive.
This is the Unleash Your Purpose podcast.
Welcome back to the pod. I am super excited. My first repeat guest, other than my wife, is here. My good friend, board certified nutritionist, co-founder of Revitalize Weight Loss. He is my go-to on my phone whenever I have issues with nutrition, and I have a lot of questions for this man. Mr. Dan LeMoine, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. I'm super pumped, man.
Yeah, we're doing like a parenting kind of series right now, and I was like, I need the expert in all things nutrition and wellness, especially when it comes to kids and nutrition. So I was like, can you please come back? And you kept saying no, and I finally made it happen.
I stood you up last time.
I know.
Yeah.
Just had your second kid.
Yeah.
I guess 7 months now is not new. How's it going?
Touch and go. I mean, she's
Yeah.
great, but she doesn't like to sleep all the time. So that's kind of when you don't have sleep, man, like at least for me, my life just crumbles. So
Yeah. So is part of your role, you have to do some of the getting up and
no, but I'm still up when she cries, and then it's a whole thing.
yes,
Yeah.
touchy.
Yeah.
I remember when, now our kids are all kind of asleep through the night, and now we have the one of our 3-year-old climbs out of the crib.
Oh.
So we got one of those, a tent.
Oh, nice. Yes.
He zips him in.
Oh yeah.
He loves it.
Yeah, we have like a sleep pod. It's like a blackout tent for when we travel. Things like, I think we paid like $200 for it. I would easily pay like $1,000.
Oh, I know.
It's amazing.
If your kid is not sleeping through the night,
Totally.
it is the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, glad you're here. You look very rested.
I'm pretty rested.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
We were starting to get some bigger stretches, so it's
That's
we're
good.
on the up.
The game changer was when our pediatrician said, all right, 6 months old, good enough. They can kind of sleep through the night.
Yeah. Yep.
So we are, okay. So now we are post-election. We have some RFK. It has really been kind of instrumental of trying to talk about like Make America Healthy Again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking back to like all of our kids and even you're helping us. We're walking in with our Costco order today, and you were just shaming us.
It's not true.
a little bit of shame. It was well because
It's all in jest.
It's all in jest. Yeah, your Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal and things like that. It's probably not the best for kids.
If the Kelsey brothers say it's okay, then it must be okay.
Oh, very true. That's what it was.
They're professional athletes, so
yeah, exactly. So, like, as a nutritionist, what are you seeing, and what's going on with this Make America Healthy Again, especially for kids?
Yeah, say what you want about RFK, and I know certain segments say he's a little conspiracy theorist, but I think there really is. We have metabolic dysfunction happening at large in our country, and I think, yes, part of that is our lifestyle, but there's also a big part of that is like the food that we're eating. Like some of those products you brought in have half the amount of ingredients right over the border in Canada or in Europe, right? Like you can't even find a Ritz cracker in Europe because they don't allow all the chemicals that we do, and that has an impact on how your body works metabolically and otherwise. And
that's true. They have no Ritz.
I don't think. Yeah.
And they also heard like Fruit Loops look different in Canada or Europe than here. Yeah, because these dyes are not allowed in other countries.
Yeah, we're an innocent till proven guilty type culture. So it's like, as long as we can kind of show that it maybe doesn't have any immediate impact, we'll let it into the food system, and we'll figure out what that looks like 20 years down the line. Whereas other places, it's like you've got to prove your innocence before you're even allowed in.
That's scary. That's a scary thing to be. And now our kids are getting the consequences of it. Yeah.
Well, and so I have a good friend. She's a food psychologist, works with a lot of people with disordered eating. And, it's interesting. Her philosophy, and I don't fully agree, but I get what she's saying, is like food's amoral. There's not like to kind of label certain foods bad and certain foods good probably does more harm than good, especially with young ones, like because you're just stigmatizing certain things. But I do think that that's not a fully true statement, and that I think there are certain foods that are worse, and it's not because that has sugar or doesn't, and we can get into that, but it's fundamentally like this is highly processed food that's been engineered by the food companies to be completely addictive, right? I mean, Philip Morris, a big, cigarette company, when everybody was going away from cigarettes, what did they do? They started buying food companies. And so then they're using all this wonderful brain power to figure out, how do I reverse engineer this food to have this perfect texture, this perfect mix of salty and crunchy and, fat and sweet. And you can't just have one chip. I mean,
Yeah, you have to have the whole bag.
Yeah, have to.
So you're saying, and I've heard this, and it was like eye-opening. So the founders of the creators of cigarettes that make it very addictive. Then when that came, like crazy amounts of regulation, then they moved to the food space, and created ultra processed foods that are like a moth to the flame.
Yes.
And for young people and for kids, but even for dads like myself,
Totally.
Like I have a choice between the carrots here in or this delicious, highly processed food.
Yeah.
And they've kind of created this for us to just
and
consume.
Our brains just it's really hard to fight that, especially when you're a young kid and you don't have your brain fully developed. Like, how do you shut that off and make that choice, right? So that's crazy.
This is like, so now you have this kind of this Make America Healthy Again kind of movement to try to really dial in and get us to a place where, like, I think it's like bringing awareness to this, and trying to get some of these things out of our diets. But as parents, we're so busy, we have so much going on, and you get all this information. And it's like, I understand, like, this ultra processed foods are not good for our kids, but that's like, man, we're so busy, like, and what are like the baby steps to even go there?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we learned when we were foster parents before we had our biological kids, we went to I forget, some training at some point. I really liked this one thing this one family did where they had, like, this was the yes basket, and they would put like apples and like healthy granola bars and, little meat sticks that were just 100% protein. It's like, no matter when you ask, hey, can I have a snack? You go to that basket, it's all yours. And once everything's gone, we replenish it. So of course, like, all the granola bars go first, and then the meat sticks, and then it's like, no, you can have whatever's in there. It's just apples now. But having like those things that you can always say yes to, and you feel good about that. And then of course, still allowing for the, my daughter calls M&M's sugar nuts. It's like, yes, you can have a few sugar nuts, but and just, I think finding small ways where you can incentivize your family and your kids to do it. I even know for me personally, like, we'll get like those, healthier Reese's cups, like the Unreal ones, or like, you know what I'm talking about? I just tell my wife, I'm like, can you just hide those in a different place? Because like, when they're right in my line of sight, like, it's just easy for me to go and grab one or two of those 4 or 5 times a day.
Yeah. So for you as a nutritionist, especially with kids, it's like not saying no all the time, but finding moderation, and also probably increasing the friction to the snacks that are like the Philip Morris snacks, the ultra processed foods.
Yeah.
Like, you have to add some friction to your life. If you have it on the counter all the time, that's what you're going to go to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. How do you just set up the environment? It's like that book Switch. I don't know if you're ever familiar with that. I think Chip and Dan Heath, but they talk about, like, there's the rider on the elephant moving along the path. Like, the rider is the logical part of your brain that can make the good decisions when but like, if that emotional elephant just starts going, that little rider is not going to be able to do anything. So you can set up things in the path to make sure the elephant goes the right way when the willpower is lower. And for kids, willpower is super low. So like, how do you set up where they can grab things, where they can, just so that they're more likely to grab those things. And then here are the things that we're still going to enjoy, ice cream and cake and whatever, but it's going to be within these boundaries. Yeah.
And some of the things that Sarah and I think probably have been more intentional on, like some of the sweets, we really are actually trying to not keep the highly sugary things in there. One, because I got the diabetes, and like, for me, any like cakes or cookies is like moths of flame, or anything not candy as much, but like ice cream, we can't keep it because the kids just love it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But you still make it a celebratory thing after a win of a game. Hey, we're all going to go get ice cream.
Totally. Yeah. Treats like treats. Right. And that's like one of the things we say in our clinic is like, with our members is like, it's okay to have these things, but can you treat a treat like a treat? Having, a pint of ice cream every night is not treating a treat like a treat. Right.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then it almost, you're normalizing this. And then you're end up 15 pounds and your kid is 12 years old with type 2 diabetes.
Yeah. Well, and then back to that, like, is food good or bad? That's where it's like, you don't want to just like build all this shame around, like, because you can get stuck in these shame cycles, and your kids can adopt those same shame cycles where every time you do overindulge, you're just like, oh gosh. And then I screwed it up. And it's like, that's not a healthy mindset either.
Hey, fellow purpose-driven leaders, if you're loving what you're hearing, we need your help to keep spreading inspiration so others can unleash their purpose too. If you're finding value in our discussions about purpose, entrepreneurship, faith, and family, here's how you can support us. First off, hit that subscribe button right now to make sure you never miss an episode. By subscribing, you'll get notified every time we release a new podcast packed with wisdom and encouragement. Next, take a moment to share this episode with your friends, family, and followers. Whether it's a text message, a post, or a shout out, your recommendation helps us reach more people who are seeking inspiration on their journey. And finally, if you've been enjoying our podcast, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews not only motivate us to keep creating great content, but they also help others discover our show and join our purpose-driven community. So let's keep the momentum going. Subscribe, share, and review the Unleash Your Purpose podcast today, and together, let's make a positive impact on the world, one listener at a time. Now let's dive back into today's episode. Our willpower is like a battery. And as time goes on, our battery gets depleted. And that's when we're more susceptible to giving in devices that you normally wouldn't have. Like probably in the morning, you can resist the temptation. You're bulletproof. Yeah, you're fully charged, ready to go. But as towards the end of the day, you're tired.
Yep.
Right?
Totally.
And as I think about, we talk about like in pastor life, or when we use the word halt. When you're HALT, when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. When you're going through one of those things, your willpower and you're most susceptible to giving in to something.
Yeah, totally.
So kid, when they're hungry, they're going to give in. When they're angry, I just want to do that. When I'm lonely, when I'm tired. Kids after school, this is when they're most susceptible, that you have to increase that kind of friction of when they want to eat those sugary snacks. Yeah. And go for that treat as not a treat, but just because I'm hungry or angry or lonely or tired.
Getting ahead of it. I remember like with because our ones they're so little now, but our foster kids were a little bit older, and it's like you could tell when their blood sugar was dropping, right? Sure. They're just getting cranky, they're getting, argumentative. And so it's like, if you can just like start to see that as a parent, okay, I know it, like they're maybe not asking for food right now, but can I offer things, or like, hey, let's have a snack, that I think can then mitigate some of that, like, all right, I'm ready to throw a fit if I don't get my M&Ms or whatever.
Yeah. So it takes this level of intentionality, but so you're thinking, so it's like a parent who has a busy schedule, has multiple school age kids. You're thinking, okay, if I have a yes pile and a treat pile, or like or
like these are the things that are on the top shelf you can't reach, that it's like you can ask for it. We might say no, but then here's like the always yes. You ask for this, and hey, can I have a snack? And we're in the middle of dinner. Yes, it's an always a yes bucket, especially for like traumatized kids. If you're like in foster care, just the more opportunities you have to say yes to things and let them feel like they've got agency and decision-making power and things like that, I think is a really helpful tactic.
When Sarah and I for a lot of years had homes for group homes for kids in the foster care system, and we always had there were certain things that were always available. And things were never like the fruits and vegetables and granola bars, always yes, because they didn't have that opportunity. But then we also had a store where you had to through positive reinforcement that you could get like some of the sugary things, and those could be kind of earned over time, and things like that every day, or when you made your bed and things like that. But those were on a more of a reward base versus necessarily just always available.
Totally. Well, I think too, it's like even just zooming out, like, okay, like there's a part in our book where it's just like we talk about like how do you parent ourselves, and we had Dr. Carrie Anderson, who's a food psychologist here in town actually that we work a lot with, and she kind of contributed some thoughts to that section of our book, and it just along the lines of like, are you talking to yourself the way you would talk to a kid, like about your body or about how you're eating, but also like, you know, in line with what we're talking about, is like, I know that there's days where I'll not eat until 2 or 3, and then I come home and I'm just like ready to just unload, like just binge basically.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, I clearly didn't parent myself and take care of my body throughout the day, and now I'm paying for it because I have low willpower and I'm super hungry, my blood sugar is low. And so in the same way that we're saying like, hey, this is kind of how you can be caring for your kids, you know, are you also caring for yourself that way? And I think it starts with kind of self-leadership too. And they do say that like kids get their eating patterns typically from mom, but I think it's both of their, both parents have an influence on that. But
yeah, say more about that. So, I mean, a lot of like, I have noticed that like a families that we're working with, we like, there tends to be kind of like this hereditary kind of genetic predisposition, or like this family pattern that if the parents are overweight, you tend to see the kids tend to be overweight as well. I remember when I was going through my master's program, I did a clinical trial for kids with obesity, and we actually work with the whole family, work with the kids and the parents and healthy eating habits. And it was almost teaching the parents of like, hey, what does it mean to move our body after dinner? Let's go for a walk.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's just like getting the body moving helps to satiate yourself and not have to feel like you have to keep eating.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, 100%. Well, it's funny. I was mentioning to you, I read this article in the Wall Street Journal about, this mom who's had success with these weight loss drugs, these GLP-1 weight loss drugs like Ozempic, wanting to get her 12-year-old on these medications because she's seeing a lot of the same patterns that she exhibits show up now in her daughter. And it's got to be a really hard place to be, because on one hand, it's like, do you just want to medicate your 12-year-old? But on the other hand, it's like, are they on the same path as me of like becoming obese and having this really disordered, relationship with food and body and things like that? And it's got to be a hard place to be.
So you're saying in the Wall Street Journal, they're actually talking about how now 12-year-olds and even younger are able to utilize these GLP-1s.
Yeah, they're pushing it for 12-year-olds and up, and then they're trying to open it up for 6 and up, which is alarming a little bit.
Wow.
Not a little bit. It's pretty alarming. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're like, you're giving this kid these drugs at 6 years old.
Liquid anorexia. Basically. Yeah. You never tell a 12-year-old girl to just stop eating, but that's essentially what you're doing when you're using these GLP-1 drugs to suppress their appetite. And so like, of course, there's the kind of like, whoa, is that ethically okay? But then there's also like the very practical, like your body's still growing and forming, and your bone is mineralizing. And like when you're undernourishing yourself because you're suppressing your appetite with these medications, what does that mean down the road for a 6-year-old who's been on these drugs for the last 10 years and now they're 16, 17, 18, and, how are they gonna
as I think about the GLP-1 drugs, there's a lot of benefits for it, and like we have a lot of friends and family who have tried it, but I was thinking like, how is their lifestyle changes with it? Like, are they learning, like, say you have a kid who's taking this drug, okay, their appetite is being suppressed for the temporary time, and you're doing it with mom, but then are you guys learning like the skills to get off of it, to be able to say, how do we increase the willpower here, change what we're eating and different food choices?
Well, that's what's alarming, is that the medication says it's a lifetime drug for this to be effective. So yes, it should be a tool with lifestyle changes and diet and things like that. My argument for somebody who's 6, 12, maybe even older, is that why not start with the lifestyle and the diet side of things? You probably don't need the drug, right? And then back to the Make America Healthy again. There's a friend of mine, Callie Means. He's been on some pretty big podcasts and things like that, and he's on the forefront of really trying to like amplify this message. But I love this analogy he gives, that is like, if I've got a fish tank and the fish tank's dirty and my fish are getting sick, I clean the tank. I don't medicate the fish. And that's fundamentally what we're doing as a country, saying like, hey, we have this obesity issue. We have all of the kind of obesity adjacent chronic illnesses. Well, let's just throw statins at it. Let's just throw GLP-1s at it. Let's just try to medicate our way out of it. And it's not working.
Yeah.
And as exciting as these weight loss drugs can be for folks, I'm skeptical that they're a long-term fix. And I'm really skeptical, extremely skeptical for kiddos.
Totally agree. Yeah. I very much feel like that is a big worry for like kids being engaged in this kind of stuff at such a young age. And they're so new. And what does the research show on that?
Yeah. I mean, I talked to 3 people last week. All 3 of them have either regained all of their weight or more, or had serious side effects like gallstones, kidney stones, stomach paralysis. Like one gal was severely anemic because she was just undernourishing herself because you're just not hungry. And like, so that's really exciting to think that like I've wrestled with my weight my whole life and I could lose 30 pounds in the next, 60 days. But what is the long term? What's going to happen long term?
Yeah. If I'm thinking about like your analogy of the fish tank, I think is so good. Like we're just trying to medicate the fish. The tank is dirty as all get out. It's like, as I'm thinking about, okay, what are if you go back to like the first order problems, is that the right word?
I don't know. We were talking about that. What is first principles again?
First principles. Like first principles is like, what is the root cause?
Yeah.
What is making the fish tank dirty?
Yeah.
You're like, okay, ultra processed foods. We know that for sure.
Yeah.
Lack of like physical activity and just iPad time.
Yeah.
Galore. What else? Like, what are other things that are really causing this fish tank and to cause us to just be
I mean, and they're
so
all
unhealthy.
interconnected, right? But like sleep is a big one. Like I have a good friend who they're doing a lot of the right stuff, which is amazing. They try to buy organic, they try to get their kids to choose the better foods than this and that, and they're always struggling with specifically with their like preteen daughter who's just has a sweet tooth, is always like sneaking snacks and things like that. And the way they parent is a little bit, I don't know, it wouldn't be the way I parent necessarily, with like just kind of shaming and punishing when she eats snacks and things like that. But then you look and they let their kids have like unlimited screen time, no bedtimes. So these kids are falling asleep on the couch. They're up at all hours. Yeah. And it's like, we know, I mean, they've done these studies where it's like those sleep deprived kids,
they eat more.
Their glucose variability is way spikier, even if they eat the exact same thing. So the one study was that groups of kids, 4 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep, same diet, the glucose variability, their blood sugars, way spikier in the kids who are underslept. And so we know that like when you're underslept, your brain wants quick energy. Where is it going to get quick energy? Glucose. And so it's going to go to the sugars and the candies and things like that. And so I think sleep's a big part of it, is like, we are constantly being barraged by screens and all of that stuff. So I think that's a big piece, the activity. And I was reading this thing about how we've basically done this weird, messed up social experiment to our kids the last 15 years where we've helicopter parented them on like the playground. No, don't climb too high. Oh, there's bullying. That kid got picked last. You can't pick kids last. And like, they don't know how to kind of navigate the social order of the playground. But at the same time, we've let them run unfettered online.
Totally agree.
Which is like this totally like ass backwards, excuse my French, way to go about it, where it's like they should be able to navigate these weird social, and of course you got to create a safe environment for kids there, but then we've got like no safety when it comes to the dark stuff online.
Sarah and I actually filmed the whole podcast on this, is that like we have no restraint on like unfiltered in the online world. And that's causing way more havoc on kids.
Totally.
And I'm fearful that my kid's going to walk across the street and go to the park.
Yeah.
And they're not able to take risks and things like that. And then I teach at a college in town, and I was like, I'm with 20 to 24 year olds, and it's silent. And even having like, I put them into small groups to have conversations, and it's like they can't even, it's like they struggle. Give them prompts of the questions, have them go around and share. I mean, I have one student who just has to leave the classroom like 3 or 4 times during every time there's a discussion, because she's visibly has anxiety for that. And it's tragic. I'm like, man, you have missed such an important part of life. And being able to have these connections,
which is like weird, because it's an interesting opportunity as a parent, I think, and again, I'm very early in my journey. So like, I know like the reality of this is a lot harder, but like there's young men at my jujitsu gym who are like just out of college, and they're studs, man. Like this one dude's built a $4 million a year business online. He started in high school. I've got another buddy who's just like this engineer, and he's like super wise. And then you've got those other kids who are like, they can't navigate adult relationships and things like that. And it's like almost this parenting opportunity that if like you can help set your kid up for emotional success and like social success in that realm, it's just going to over index, and they're going to like, not that it's like rise to the top, but like, I think that you're like, it's going to over index and be a skill set that,
it's a superpower.
Yeah. That's the
and you're like, you're going to be able to, you're going to beat out all the competition.
Yeah.
Like even I'm noticing that we're kind of getting on a tangent, but like, within this cohort, this Gen Z, as they're going to the workplace, even working full time is high anxiety, very stressful. They don't have the resilience to be able to do it, and it's like, but those who are able to do that, those are the studs.
Yeah.
You're like, all right,
which I think is also a unique opportunity as business owners or as leaders in the workplace, whether you have kids or not, is that like
we have to parent them.
Yeah, your parenting work doesn't end at home, right? In the same way that like I don't think my parenting stops when my girls turn 18. Like I've got, people at my office that like, how do we set up an environment where they are, whether they're with us for 2 years or 10 years, that they're walking out more equipped in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree. I was kind of going back to your idea when you're thinking about you were a foster parent. I was thinking back to, so we adopted our 5 kids. We've had a lot of foster kids in and out of our home throughout the like 15 years of us doing that. What was so interesting, you're thinking about sleep. So the 5 kids that we adopted, a couple are teenagers, a 7-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And when they came into the house, we were sitting down at dinner. One, they never sat down at a really dinner table. So that was a new experience. A couple of them were really nervous. But then eating even vegetables was like, just like a torture.
Same.
Yeah. And they were like on the ground and then crying and it just kind of being patient through that. And then even bedtimes was kind of sporadic.
Sure.
Like when would they go to sleep and all of this?
Yeah.
And we watched as months of just consistency of these kids. We always go to bed. The little ones go to bed at 7. The older ones go to bed at 8 or 8:30. And then always eating dinner at the dinner table. You have to have a vegetable. We all sit around and share. It's these little things that are actually really big things.
Totally.
And then these kids used to wake up so freaking early or be cranky and crazy.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I think some of this parenting moments, especially kids who have been in foster care, is just consistency of like, these kids love to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Now they say, my little one says, all right, go night time.
Yeah.
I got a 13-year-old son yesterday. He's like, all right, Dad, I'm going to go to bed. I'm like, bro, it's 8 o'clock. It's 7:30.
Nice.
And he loves it.
Yeah.
There's no TV in his room.
Yeah.
He like enjoys sleep.
Yep.
And like, that is actually health.
Totally.
Is that he recognizes their body, that they need to go to bed. They wake up, they're not moody. I mean, teenagers are
yeah.
moody.
I mean, that's a huge gift to give to them, is like helping them listen to their body and slow down. I mean, with little kids, like, hey, do you have to go potty?
Yeah.
Because they'll get so into something, and the next thing you know, you've got an accident, and you're like, oh shoot.
Yesterday, Sarah's driving with our youngest son, Jonah, who's just got potty training. He's going to a new preschool soon, and they had to check if he's potty training. He's going to piss his pants. So Sarah's like, she's like, hey, Jonah, there's a cup right here. He's like, what? He's like, just pee in the cup. And he was so proud. He's like, Mommy, I peed in the cup. And she sent a photo. I've never been more proud.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like,
that's so good. That's so good. Yeah, I mean, the veggies thing was an interesting one with our foster kids too, because it's like, for 5 years, our foster son, I don't think had ever had a veggie. And he could rattle off, I mean, he was almost nonverbal, but he could rattle off every single fast food place we went by. And, we had to get creative about like, how can we hide veggies in like a smoothie? So you can put spinach and you put, that's pretty much flavorless when you put berries and banana and all the other stuff in there, or just you're not forcing them to eat something. Like it's like, hey, let's just try it. Let's try a bite. Let's try it a different way. Let's try something else. And it's and really trying to understand, even with my kids, like there are times when you kind of tell when you need to push and be like, no, I need you to have a couple more bites of this before we can go have the dessert or whatever the thing is. And there's other times where it's like, okay, we're done. Like, I don't want to force you to clean your plate. Like, I don't think that's a healthy thing personally. And we usually will leave the plate there for a little bit, because it's funny how she'll like come back to it and like, you know, eat off of it a little bit, and helping her kind of being a little bit more of an intuitive eater, I think can, you know, at least it's working so far.
I mean, your kids got to step up. Both their parents are nutritionists. They own like a very successful wellness company that like, and like a company that has changed so many people's lives. So like for you, your mindset as you're trying to help your kids kind of have what I hear you saying all the time is like, you want them to have a really good, healthy relationship with food.
Yeah.
See that food is a good thing. Kind of learning how to pick healthier options versus ultra processed. Like people say they're the newbies in the world. Like what are some of like really simple, practical things that, hey, we do fast food all the time. Everything is packaged snacks. Like what's realistic?
Yeah, I mean, if you're eating out all the time and that's the world you're living in, I wouldn't try to do a full overhaul overnight, especially with your kids, because that's going to throw them for a loop, and it's probably not going to be sustainable. So it's like, are there ways to, let's not change everything, but can we have 5 or 6 servings of vegetables in a day alongside that? Is there a way to replace one of those meals with something healthier? Can you try to cook a meal at home? Yeah, things like that. Because even I find like when I eat out, even if I'm eating at like a good place, choosing healthy options, you just don't know. You don't know what type of oil they're using. You don't know how much salt they're putting in that stuff. And so at least I find like with my own internal biometrics, and then when I weigh myself, like there was nothing wrong with that meal I ate out, but I'm up in weight the next day. And it's usually because they're using seed oils, or they're putting a ton of butter and salt in there to bring the flavors out. And so I think, can you learn to have a better relationship with your food by cooking more? Yeah.
One of the things that we like, even with our kids, like the newly adopted kids, having to help them when they actually cook with us, they're, for some reason they love it. Yeah. I mean, it totally makes sense, right? Yeah. You learn to kind of like have an excitement with the food, and that's
and you're doing something together. So maybe, I don't know, if there's something different about like, I'm going to sit down across from, somebody and just talk, especially like a teenager. Like they're maybe not going to open up as much if you're driving somewhere together, or like I'm cooking, you're just sitting at the table doing homework. Like it's funny how like, I know for me, like those are the times I talked with my parents probably the most. It wasn't just like sitting there like talking face to face. It was like my mom was cooking and I was just kind of decompressing, or I was going for a drive with my dad or whatever.
Yeah, those car rides are the time. Yeah, really big things happen.
Yeah, and then if you're gonna go next level, I mean, I would start, if you really want to go down that rabbit hole, like you can start looking into like the role that like sugar and inflammation plays on our body. These processed seed oils, those are probably the two huge.
What is
ones.
Processed seed oils?
So like any like canola oil, grapeseed oil, like these vegetable oils. There's a lot of research that shows that they're not.
Okay. Yeah. So and then like so if there's things that the way I kind of think about it is like, all right, I know we don't want to say no to certain things, but in my head it's like, all right, what are some things that I can say when I'm at Costco? I'm like, all right, I'm not going to pick these things out anymore. Yeah.
I'm typically looking at like, is there
a bunch of ingredients
bunch of ingredients, a bunch of sugar, or like sugar, like things like high fructose corn syrup. Okay.
The dyes.
Yeah, that type of stuff. It's not. And then
that's like a no-brainer. Like you're like, no way.
No way. Yeah. Yeah. And then the seed oils is
So what's your daughter eat that are snacks that are really like healthy? And
cheese sticks. We like the like Chomps little like meat sticks that are just 100% like meat. She freaking loves cheese sticks. Yeah. But yeah, apples, hummus, little crackers that are like almond flour crackers, or like the Mary's
my kids like hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah,
they love those.
There's like those all fruit bars.
Yep,
those are great. The like fruit pouches, the like pureed fruit pouches, those are kind of our go-to for snacks.
Yeah, it's like ultra processed foods are like things that like the crackers that you're saying, a bunch of cereals, things that are super colorful.
Yeah.
And if you those are things that you say, hey, if those are easy steps to kind of get out of your kid's diet, that's going to help.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think you also know that like kids are growing, they're super active. So like they can handle a glucose load higher than like most of us anyways. and you know, no, even for yourself, like no, when are you bulletproof? You just had a really hard workout. Your body's way more bulletproof to go and enjoy something that's super high sugar because your body's just going to use that up versus it just getting stored as fat. And so, you know, kind of mapping out and planning your day, you know, it can be a helpful tactic.
Yeah, you've committed your life. What I love about this, you've committed your life to this idea of health, wellness. Is that kind of a right word for it? Like, tell our audience kind of like a little bit about kind of your mindset and like what you guys do at Revitalize. That kind of makes you guys unique.
Yeah, I mean, I like to say that we're trying to work ourselves out of a job. We feel like this industry is one that is predicated on people's failure. You have to come back for the special shots. Or stay on them for life. You have to come and buy our prepackaged food. Like you have to come and do something in order to see sustainable results. And we feel like we've been led to believe that sustainable results and significant results are mutually exclusive. If you want fast results, they're not going to be sustainable. If you want sustainable results, it's going to take you years. And we feel like we've arrived at a formula that where you can see significant results. And if you're doing the right things, we can feel pretty confident that metabolically and from a habit standpoint, you've forged the things that you've got the tool set to keep that weight off or recorrect if ever things get wonky in the future. We use some different technology that helps us remove some of that guesswork for people of like what foods are optimal for their body, help them identify their trigger foods from an inflammation standpoint. But really we want to make sure that people are well supported to be equipped and educated to own this journey and win this battle.
And you have a couple clinics here in Phoenix. We also have online options for all over the US. And that's for me, that's some of the things I went through your program and it was a game changer. Learned so much about food. How does my body react? Values of different types of like intermittent fasting, dropped 20 something pounds, never felt more lean and like healthy and in control than going through the program. But yeah, and you kind of, what I loved about it, you had a coach that kind of walked through this with you. Yeah. And would check in.
Yeah, and we've recently rolled out like a new app since you've been through the program. We've got a new app, so you actually have some of our technology, it's your technology in your home, Smart Scale, that links right into our app. It also, if you have like an Oura Ring or an Apple Watch, like your steps and sleep and all that goes into the app as well. And then we actually are assigning you a coach, so you have one coach and you can meet with them in person, or many people opt for the phone call, virtual check-ins.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. So the accountability and all of that, dude. That's a good program. And now, kind of even thinking about it, because if you're making these lifestyle changes, then it can be passed on to your kids as well.
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot. That's a big motivating factor for a lot of our people who come through the program. Is like I'm seeing my kids starting to kind of follow suit, and we need to have more of a wholesale change in our family to get back to basics here, or also, hey, I've got grandbabies on the way and I don't want to be that grandparent who's just sitting on the couch the whole time. I want to be vibrant and healthy and enjoy the back half of my life.
Totally. And having like your own self-awareness and having your kids in your life, having kids and parenting, grandparents, like this is now you're like seeing the reality of like, I need to get control of this and I can make it happen.
Yeah. And I think that people get to a point where they're like, they give up. Like we like to joke sometimes, like we're the program for people who like feel like they've tried it all, and because like you get fatigued, you're like, man, am I just really gonna like have to button down again and try this and fail again? And we really try to set up a program and accountability so that you can win this battle once and for all. And the reality is like, yeah, if we're just looking at scale numbers, like there's a lot of ways to lose weight. We are wanting more holistic health and really help you connect and the kind of in between the ears side of things to say like, why are you doing this? Yeah. If it's just for bikini body, that's great. And we can still help. But like, we're really in this for the folks who are saying like, I want to make meaningful lifestyle changes. I don't want to just go back to eating we want you to have the freedom to do that from time to time. But if you're just wanting to go back to eating McDonald's 4 times a day, this isn't probably going to work. We want people who are saying like, I'm ready to make a change so that I can be more active with my kids. I can be a better parent, have more energy, be less cranky, be more attracted to my spouse, feel more attractive for my spouse, all of the things, all those non-scale victories.
Yeah. And those non-scale victories are honestly the victories.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
So I know that we're planning to talk about this. Any holiday deals you can hook me up with?
At our program. Oh my gosh.
You guys are gonna have some. I'm sure now the program you're gonna have some come out for Christmas, New Year's deals. So where do they get involved? How do they find out more information?
Yeah, well, okay. So our website's revitalizeweightloss.com. You can find out all about us there. Yeah, we've got different holiday deals running. We're doing some restructured kind of special pricing in December. Yeah, and then of course we've got supplements that are kind of got the Black Friday thing and all the stuff.
So we were talking offline that like instead of doing the GLP-1, you're gonna help me get an all natural GLP kind of option.
Yeah, there are ways to naturally increase your GLP-1 hormone in a way that doesn't jack up your digestive system and potentially give you gallstones and kidney stones.
And, am I having diarrhea or am I constipated for 4 days?
Both.
Yes, all in the same day.
Yeah, you don't have to do that.
Okay.
And even just for the listeners, if you're looking, I mean, berberine is a supplement that helps naturally raise your GLP-1. If you're familiar with yerba mate tea, which you can drink kind of the traditional way, or there's a lot of canned versions that are sugar-free now, yerba mate. Those are 2 layup ways to increase your GLP-1 hormone. So
absolutely, I don't know what either of those are.
Oh, bro, come on.
Well, you can help me. You can.
Okay.
You just ring me up.
You've never had yerba mate tea?
No, I do. I drink tea every night right now.
Okay.
It's cool, but
it's like a lot of like people in like Brazil and Argentina, like they have like the little gourd thing and they sip it with like a metal straw.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah. But then like Andrew Huberman like has his own brand now, and it's like I don't know how to pronounce it, guayaki or something. You've seen the yellow cans, I'm sure, at like the grocery store and stuff. But that's yerba mate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, bro.
There you go.
I appreciate the little facts.
Of course.
All right. So make sure you check out Dan LeMoine on Instagram and Revitalize Weight Loss. Until next week, may you unleash your purpose, seek your profit in business, faith, and life.
Thanks for joining us for the Unleash Your Purpose podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. We'll see you next week.